Dear all, welcome to this video. So in this video, we will be looking at how to use for loop inside a Java program. Okay, so we have already discussed the syntax of for loop in my previous video. So in this video, we will be primarily looking at how to implement it. So first of all, we will be doing a program to demonstrate the for loop, and this program would be printing the values from 1 to 10. You can also call this program to print the table of 1. Okay, so for that, let me create a class which is loop1. Okay, and inside this class I will be creating the main method, which is public static void main and string args. After that, inside this main method, I will be now creating the for loop. Okay, so for the syntax is I have to initialize a variable with a value. Okay, then associate some condition to it, and finally increment or decrement the variable. Inside the for loop, we have to mention the statement of execution. So here in this case, I am simply printing the value of I. Okay, system.out.println, and here I will print the value of I. Now if you look, one more bracket is missing. So if you look into this particular code, so first of all, let us analyze this for loop. So initially I have initialized the value of I as 1. So this is the first value that needs to be printed. Okay, we can also do this outside the main method and inside the class. Okay, and use that particular variable here. Okay, and after that I am simply analyzing a condition comparing I with 10. So I is less than equal to 10. So if this is the scenario, if this is true, then the statement inside the for loop would be printed. Okay, so once this is printed, it will be incremented by 1, which is I plus 1. Okay, that is 2. All right, so this will now become, sorry, this will now become 2, and 2 will again be compared to this condition where 2 is less than equal to 10. Yes, it is true. So this statement will be printed again, and then I would be incremented by 1. Okay, so if you look at the flowchart which is described in the previous video, then also you will understand that first of all this condition is checked. If this condition is true, the statement would be executed, and after that again the condition, after that incrementation would be done, and then again the value would be this condition would be compared. Okay, so this is the step. I first the condition, then if it is true the statement would be printed, then it is incremented, again the condition is checked. Okay, so likewise now it will go on increasing the value to 4 to 5 until it reaches 10. Okay, so when it reaches 10, it will compare 10 is less than or equal to 10. Yes, 10 is equal to 10. So last value which will be printed is 10, and then I will be incremented. Now the value of I will become 11. Now is 11 less than equal to 10? No, 11 is greater than 10. So this condition now will be false. So the control of the program will come out of the for loop, and since there are no other statements to be executed, the program will end here. Okay, so now let us save this program. So I will save it with the same name as that of my class, loop1.java. Okay, now let me run this program. Command prompt. Okay, cd OneDrive, cd desktop, again one more is there, then cd oop, cd java programs. Then within this, now I have the final program, which is java c loop 1 dot java. Okay, and finally I will uh, look into what the output will actually looks like. Sorry, loop 1 should have been the class name. Yes, so now you can see the values are getting printed from 1 to 10. Okay, Likewise, now if I would have met the condition, given the condition here as less than 10, so where would my execution stop? My execution of this statement will stop executing one value which is less than one less than 10. That means it should execute up till 9. Okay, so let us see if this happens. So Java C, and then I will simply print the value. See, from 1 to 9. So this condition is met. Alright, and hence this we are getting the output. So this is how you will be executing a simple for loop, just where there is just one for loop in this particular program. Likewise, we can also go for nested for loop. Okay, so nested for loop means that we will be using a for loop inside another loop. Okay, and the inner loop will execute completely whenever the outer loop executes. Okay, so first of all, let us check how a program looks like. So let me copy this, okay, so that every time I do not need to type. So here, program to demonstrate nested for loop. Okay, and we will not mention it here. Okay, we will see what we do. So program to demonstrate nested for loop, and here we will use a loop within a loop. Okay, so now let us create a class. So let's say we'll just use class nested loop. Okay, and again I have similar representation here, where I will be writing the main method, public static void main string args. All right, and here I will be simply creating the body of the main method, and within this now I have to write the nested for loop. So first of all, let me create a one for loop int I is equal to 1, and I will be printing this until I is less than or equal to 3. That means 3 would be included. Okay, I plus plus. All right, so within this for loop now I will open a for loop. Let me also write down the closing bracket, because sometimes we forget to mention the closing bracket, because of which we get a lot of errors. All right, and then within this particular for loop, okay, what I'll do is I will create another for loop. All right, now I will use a different variable here. J is equal to 1. Okay, let me put similar condition, j less than is equal to 3, then j plus plus. First of all, we will dry run this program, okay, so that it will be easier for us to anticipate what the program output should be like. Okay, then what I will do is I will print the value of both system.out.println, and I will print the value of both I, and I'll concatenate this. Let me introduce a space here, and let's say j. Okay, now my program is done. So this basically is the this will be the end of I, and this will be the end of j. Okay, so now when you look into this particular program, just observe carefully. Okay, so I have two variables. Let me mention it here. I will dry run this so that it will be easier. So I have two variables here, I, and I is equal to 1, and let's say j is equal to 1. Okay, so here both of the variables I have initialized, I is equal to 1 and j is equal to 1. Okay, so initially what happens, first of all this for loop will be executed. Okay, so I is equal to 1, I less than is equal to 3. Yes, it is correct, it is, the condition is true, so it will enter the next block of execution. Okay, so here also it encounters another for loop which is j is equal to 1 and j, it will be comparing that whether j is equal to less than or equal to 3. Yes, j is less than or equal to 3. That means the statement would be executed here. So here the value of I and value of j would be printed. Okay, so the value of I is 1 and the value of j is also 1. Now after this is executed, j would be incremented by 1. That means j's value would be now 2. Okay, so when this j value is 2, okay, let me first, this is the output. Okay, now here what happens, j value is incremented by 2 now. Okay, and I, it remains as 1. Okay, how do I write it? Okay, so what happens is, I will not mention this. Okay, this is simply the incremented value, the current value. Okay, output we will see that later. Now j's value will be now 2. Now when j's value is 2, again this condition is checked, right? Now when this condition is checked, 2 is less than is equal to 3, the condition is true. Now again another value of j would be printed along with the same value of I. That means initially the output which I got was 1 and let's say 1. Now the output that I will get is 1 and 2. Okay, in the next line, of course. Okay, and what about the j value? It will now get incremented to 3. Okay, so when it is getting incremented to 3, 3 is again less than is equal to 3. Yes, it is true. Okay, so this statement will again be printed. Okay, now the third line of output that we will get is 3. 1 and 3. Now I does not change because we have not yet come out of this loop. Now the condition is still going on true, okay, until j is equal to 3. Now j will now be incremented to 4. Now 4 is less than is equal to 3. No, 4 is not less than equal to 3. The condition is not correct. That means it will come out of this loop and go back to the initial control. The control will go back to the initial for loop which started it. Okay, so once this execution is over, what should we do? We will now increment the value of I to be 2, right? And again my value of j is 1 now. Okay, when it is incremented to 2, now 2 is less than is equal to 3. Yes, 2 is less than is equal to 3. That means it will go on executing this block again. Okay, so this block will now go ahead with j is equal to 1 because this is fresh, right? I is equal to 2. It is starting for the iteration number 2. Okay, so j is equal to 1. Yes, j is equal to 1 and j is less than is equal to 3. Yes, j is less than is equal to 3. So condition is true. So this statement would be printed. Okay, so now the value that I will get is 2 and 1, the first line of output. Okay, not the first line, this would be actually the fourth line of output. Okay, again it will check, it will be incremented. Now j would now be incremented to 2. Okay, so 2 is less than is equal to 3, the condition is true, so again this will be printed. Okay, now it will be incremented to 3. J would be incremented to 3. J is less than is equal to 3, true, so again this condition would be printed. Okay, so finally the output which I will get is 2 and 3. Okay, it will start from 2 1 2 2 and 2 3. Now j is incremented to 4, the condition is not true, so the control will be going to the initial for loop. Okay, so now I will be incremented to 3. So now I would be incremented to 3. So j's value is not yet decided. Okay, once it enters the for loop, then only j will be initialized. So I is equal to 3. So I, yes, less than is equal to 3. So I is equal to 3. It will now enter this particular for loop. So where it will initialize j with 1. Okay, and now j is equal to 1 will be compared with j is less than is equal to 3. Yes, it is true. So the same process will follow. Okay, now when I'm compiling and running this program, let us see what is the output that we get. Okay, so nested loop was the name of our class. nested loop dot java. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll simply let me clear this. I'm being very clumsy. Okay, so java c nested loop dot java. Okay, so no errors. So java nested loop. Okay, so see, as already mentioned, initially I value is 1. So for 1, since 1 is there, and the second loop, the second loop which is there is for j. So all the values of j will be printed 1, 2 and 3, and after it becomes false, it will come out and give the control to the initial for loop. Okay, so here again I would be incremented, so i's value become 2, and again the block within the for loop, initial for loop, would be executed until it reaches a false condition, and then finally I would be incremented to 3. Okay, and again the same process will repeat. So this is how your nested for loop works. Okay, and one of the very common topics, I mean one of the very common programs are which you do using this nested for loop is the pyramid type of problems. Okay, where you draw different stars, okay, star patterns in pyramid. So something, if we want to create a program, let's say I have a star, let's say I have a star, something like this, then I have another star. Okay, then I have another star here, then I have another star here. Okay, something like this. So if we want to print something like this, then we can easily use a nested for loop in order to do this particular pattern. Okay, so we will be talking about these patterns also. So let us see a program. How do I create a pyramid of stars using this nested for loop? Okay, so let me write down program to demonstrate pyramid stars using for loop. Okay, using nested for loop or using for loop. So now I'll write here nested. Okay, all right. So now first of all I will be creating the class inside which I am supposed to write. So class star1. All right, so within this I have the class body, and then I will write down the main method public static void main string args. Okay, so within this I will have the other methods, I mean other loops and all declared. Now I will initialize that for I is equal to 1. Sorry, for int I is equal to 1. Now suppose I need 5 different levels. Okay, 5 different rows of stars, or 4 different, let's say 4 different rows of stars. So I less than is equal to 4, then I plus plus. I want to execute this. So here what happened was, wait just 1 minute. Yes, here what happened was I needed 3 different, I wanted the loop to execute till 3. Okay, so that is why I gave 3. Now if I wanted to execute till 4, then I will give it as 4. Okay, so now within this for loop I have another for loop which is int j is equal to 1, j less than is equal to I, and then we have j plus plus. Okay, so now here I will simply mention system.out.println, and within this I will simply type star. Okay, so we will not use println here, we will simply use print here because I want to execute the first loop in the next line. Okay, so I will end this here. So this is my program. And what about the next line? So within after the first loop ends, I will have to introduce a next line. So system dot out dot println. So I will simply introduce a new line after the star is printed. Okay, so for your this thing understandability, let me simply draw this particular pattern here so that we can easily identify what we are trying to do. This star, then let's say we have another star and another star here, then we have 2-3 more stars here, and then we have 4 stars here. Okay, so this is the pattern that we want to print. Okay, first let us check if it is getting printed. Okay, then we will go ahead with the explanation of this program. Okay, so Control S star1.java. Okay, so here what I'll do is I'll compile it javac star1.java, then I have java star1. So see, I am getting the pattern as this. Okay, now let us look into the program. So others, I think it is clear, so we will look into this for loop. Okay, first of all let us look into this for loop. Sorry, let me just minimize it a bit so that it becomes clear. Okay, now when you're looking this, I believe this loop is clear, where I have initialized I is equal to 1. Okay, I less than is equal to 4 and I plus plus. That means this loop will iterate until it reaches 4. Okay, so here how many rows are there? Basically 1, 2, 3, 4. If you look into this, we have 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay, so we have 4 different rows, and if we consider this as columns, okay, so how many columns should be there? 1, 2, 3 and 4. So there are 4 different columns. So for rows I am introducing the variable I, and for the different columns I am introducing the variable j. Okay, so now for the first row, okay, for the first row I is equal to 1, I less than is equal to 4, yes. So now it will enter into this block. Okay, this block of code. So now here when the control goes to this for loop, so now j is equal to 1, true. Okay, then j is less than is equal to I. Okay, so is j less than is equal to I? Yes, j is less than is equal to I, and if it is less than is equal to I, we will now simply print the star, which is the first one. It is getting printed. After that j is incremented. Now what is the value of j? If we are considering here, what is the value of j? J is 2. Now again this condition is checked. If j is less than is equal to I, so what is the value of I? I still is equal to 1. J is equal to 2. So 2 is not less than is equal to I. So the control will come out of this for loop now, and it will go to the next statement which is present inside the initial row. So it will now print one new line. Okay, so here you see the next thing is getting printed from the new line. Now after this statement is executed, the control will go to the initial for loop. So now I would be incremented by 1, which is now I will become 2. Okay, now 2 is less than is equal to 4. Yes, 2 is less than equal to 4. So again it will go here, j is equal to 1. Okay, Yes, now j is equal to 1. And what is the value of I? I is equal to 2. Okay, so j is less than is equal to I. Yes, j is less than equal to I because j's value is 1 now and I value is 2. So it will print one more star here. Okay, sorry, it will print one more star here. So this is the next star that is getting printed. Okay, now what happens? J's value will be incremented by 1, which is 2. Okay, now again this condition would be checked. 2 is less than is equal to 2. Yes, it is true. So again one more star would be printed here. Okay, so this will be ending in here because once j's in value is going on 3, so 3 is more than the value of I, so it will come out of this for loop and it will print a new line. Okay, now again after it is done, it will go back to the initial loop. Now i's value would be incremented to 3. J's value is not yet decided. Okay, so after this condition is true, which is actually true, it will go to the next for loop. Now j is initialized to 1 and 1 is less than is equal to 3. So first one star would be printed here. Okay, again now j's value would be incremented to 2. 2 is less than equal to 3. So the next star will be printed here and j's value would be incremented. So it will now again compare. Here it will compare 3 is less than equal to 3. So the next value would be printed as the star. Okay, and after that j's value would be incremented to 4. Once j's value is incremented to 4, the condition is no longer satisfied here. So it will come out of this for loop and it will print one new line. And then again the control will go back to the initial for loop. Okay, now I value would be incremented to 4 and j's value again would be not be decided, okay, until it reaches this for loop. So 4 is less than is equal to 4. Here it is true, it will come here. Okay, so now j's value is equal to 1 and this condition is true. Okay, so it will print one star, which is basically this star. Okay, then j's value is incremented by 2 1, so it will become 2. So again this condition is checked, it is true, so this will be printed. Then j's value would be incremented to 3. The condition is checked, which is true. Okay, and again it will be printed. Okay, then j's value will become 4. This is also true, so the fourth star will also be printed. So once j's value becomes 5, it will no longer be true, it will be false. So a new line would be printed here. Okay, and the control will be shifted to the initial for loop. Okay, so here now i's value would be incremented to 5. So once it reaches 5, it now no longer satisfies this condition. That means it becomes false. So it will come out of this particular block and it will end the program here. Okay, so this is how the star pattern or the pyramid of stars works. There are several patterns using these stars. Okay, and this you have to do it on your own. Okay, just apply the logic how it should work and it will work fine. Okay, so that is all for today's session. We will be discussing further on this loops in Java in my next session. Okay, thank you.